Hey, hello, hello. We're a bit late. We're a bit late starting today. Usually I do this in the morning. I used to try to do it every day at 9. And but today was a you know what a day. It's such a day today. What a day. I guess it's safe to say it was a busy day. A day with friends and you know, not like a group of friends, but a number of different people today, just on walks, one-on-one visits, that kind of thing. So part of what I do, and the day just flew by. It really did. But a message came out of the day, and I wanted to share it with you. So the message is, um, what do I know for sure? What do I know for sure? And it came out of some conversations today. I had a conversation with a good friend who's pretty certain that you know that in his mind that things are going to go really quite sideways on a global scale, and that and a bit caught up in the whole story of what might be happening around um, this virus and vaccines and the global economy and all of that stuff. I'm not in a position to say whether his concerns are right or wrong. I'm really not. I have no idea. I have none. But what I do know, though, is that if my life depends on a being here, being present, being in a conscious connection with my power greater than myself, if my life depends on that, I can't get too engaged in mm, positions, taking a position, saying, this is the way, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, uh, or, you know, getting too wrapped up in thinking I know what's going on in the world. Uh, I think it's important to stay informed, look at all the pieces of the question if you feel like it, but just watch that being engaged in a position robs us of our power. It robs us of our power. So just, when we think we know, when we think we've got it down pat, we think we're certain that, you know, about something that's going on in the world, um, and it can be in the smallest thing. It can be for me, if somebody hasn't called me in a couple of days, sometimes my mind can get going with this whole story about whether they like me or don't like me, or making shit up, just making shit up. So that's my thing today, is that how much of what we worry about. And by the way, when we're worrying about stuff, it takes us out of the moment. We lose our conscious contact with our higher power. And we're in fear, real or imagined fear. Either way, it doesn't matter. We don't, fear robs us of our power, takes us out of the moment. Anger robs us of our power, right? Guilt, shame, you know, complaint, judgment robs us of our power. So if we want to be, in our full potential, in our full potential, then we need to be present. Now that doesn't say, I'm not saying that we shouldn't um, go with whatever we feel is right in the moment, and if some amazing conspiracy was going on and it became apparent, then I think we would act appropriately, but just, slow down, pause, listen, recognize that, we've never been in control. We've never, control is an illusion. We've always been coming from the mind, from ego, from fear, and that's, we can never have control. We're always enslaved in our own thinking. So in our own mind, in our own concepts, in our own ideas of what's right or wrong, or what's good or bad, right? So what's successful or what's a failure. I mean, we just don't know. I just wrote a little note. I said, often in life, we're certain that we know. We think or believe we know for sure what's going to happen or what did happen, and we're sure what it means, whether it's good or bad, right or wrong. Haha, I said. Then time or a little more information appears and we change our story. And that's what happens. We look back and say, wow, whatever it was that we thought was just the worst thing that could have ever happened, well, I'm sure glad that happened, right? And even with this virus today, yes, it's sad. It's sad that people are dying and getting sick, but there's lots of people that have gained huge life lessons and have grown tremendously and would say that, wow, thank God I stayed home for a lot of this year. I really went deep and discovered who I was. That's my story. What a great year 2020 had been for me, because I really got to surrender and know me better. Be, me, not me, the persona, but me, the 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 being that was here before the persona. See, everything that we think we are is part of a story that was fed to us by our parents, by well-meaning folks, that taught us that life wasn't safe, right? That said, we needed to be careful. We couldn't trust people or strangers. All of those things were fear-based, or taught us that somehow we weren't good enough, that weren't smart enough, right? And so it was all not true. It was not true, and we believed it, and we carried it, and the fact that I discovered in this last few years, that the 12-step program, by the way, has been trying to tell me for over 40 years, is that from my mind, from my persona, I cannot manage my own life. And it's only my persona that decides, what's right or what's wrong, that makes judgments on people, finds people as guilty, carries gossip. It's all my persona. It's all the storyteller that wants to make me look good in the stories, right? So knowing that I cannot manage my own life, that, I'm powerless over some of my addictions, all of my addictions, but, and that I cannot manage my own life took me forever to get that. What does that mean? It clearly tells us what it means in the book. Where did it go? It clearly tells us that when we're trying to manage our own life, we're in the middle of the picture trying to run it. We're self-centered. We're grossly self-centered. We're trying to, we must be convinced, it says, that our life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Now, what does convinced mean? If you're in the 12-step world and you're still running your life, you're still making decisions based on hearsay and on whatever, you're not in a God conscious state, defending it. Just relax, slow down, recognize that we cannot run our own lives from our ego, from our persona. We start to recognize that, that's what we've been doing. And the fear comes in, because it says that being convinced. Okay, first requirement is to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Any life, not just yours, the alcoholic or the addict, but any life. On that basis, we're almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives were good. We're trying to be helpful, but we were coming from self-will, self-centeredness. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person, like the actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players' own way. If his or her arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he or she wished. Son of a gun. You know, that's the deal. So we're in the middle of the picture trying to run the show with very limited information, all colored by this idea that we're not good enough. This belief that we're unworthy, so, based in fear. The show would be great, he says. Everyone, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. And trying to make these arrangements, for all of us trying to run the show, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing, right? That's the picture we paint of ourselves. Oh, look at all I've done, you know. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest, but as with most humans, he might more likely have varied traits. What usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well, right? This is written in our text in the big book, of the 12-step world. He begins to think that life doesn't treat him right. Decides the next occasion to exert himself more. He becomes still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Maybe somewhat at fault. Maybe, okay, somewhat at fault. Where is that? Still punished, maybe somewhat at fault. He is sure that other people are more to blame. Becomes angry, indignant, and self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not the victim of the delusion? Here we go. This is the bottom line. What's a delusion? Not the victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction, happiness out of the world he only manages well. It's not evident to the rest of the players. These are the things he wants. Do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get from the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Yes. So that's the deal. We think we know. We get positions. We say this is the way, when really the 12 steps in all the spiritual paths, all of them, at their core, are asking us to slow down, to tap into the guidance of the oneness of God as we understand him. So that's my message today: to tap in, recognize that we can't run the show, and that walk quietly, as if on thin ice. Recognize that if we're screaming about our rights, we're in trouble. Walk as if you have no rights, as if we're all guests here. Not arrogant, self-centered. We're guests. Remember all the years I spent in Bali. And, I was there often for 10 years, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And my context was, I'm a guest here. I'm a guest here. I don't have rights here. I'm a visitor. I'm a guest. What if we could spend every day on this planet as a guest and bring love and caring and service and be there for others? Beautiful way to live. Okay? So that's the deal. Sarah says, what am I reading from? Sarah was reading from the text in AA, the big book. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It goes on to say, it's a beautiful piece. It says, our actor, that's me, all of us, is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. And then some examples of the actor, the self-centered actor it gives. But what it really comes down to is this. This is us. This is why life, doesn't seem to work for many of us, and that's because it says in the book that from Bill Wilson wrote this in the 30s, and it's been the core of the 12-step program. Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear. Now, we all know fear. We deny it. We don't talk about it. We tell people we don't have it. We fight with it. We avoid it. We drink or do drugs or watch TV or whatever we do, eat to avoid this fear. But we're driven by 100 forms of fear: self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that sometime in the past we've made decisions based on self. What about me? What about me? Right? Based on self, which later places us in a position to be hurt. It's beautifully written. It's the core of the whole thing. If I recognize that I cannot manage from my limited perception of reality, it makes sense if I come to understand that I have a limited perception. Why would I be so arrogant to think that I can manage life when All I have to do is on a daily basis check in with the boss. I call him my boss, my new employer. I just check in and say, okay, moment to moment, show me what you'd have me to be. And when I'm living in the now, it's always there. I'm always in connection. You know, it's beautiful. It says the next paragraph is so great. It says, so our troubles we think are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic, we're talking about the alcoholic or the addict, extremely is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. And God, they talk about God, but it's your concept of God. God can be love. God can be universal intelligence. God can be now. It's a very broad, this paints it with a very broad brush. We can, whatever it is, however we see that to be. And that's in step 2 that we came to believe that power greater than ourselves could return us to sanity, So that power greater than ourselves, we talk about that in quite a bit of detail so that people can get a concept of what does that mean. It's not necessarily the Sunday school version of Christianity that you got, and that many of us put away. We can find another concept that works for you. And they go on here in the next paragraph to name several different concepts. I'll finish it for you. That you're asking about where did it come from. I'll finish it for you. So, what did it say? Above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help or the universal intelligence help or love. We had to find this power that was greater than us because we didn't have it. We don't have the power. We are powerless from our ego, from our persona. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit paying God, putting ourselves in the middle of the picture, trying to organize the whole life to suit us. It didn't work. Next, we decided hereafter in the drama of life, God was going to be our director. So that's a concept. It's just, it's one concept. God is a director. He is the principal and we are his agents. He is the father and we are his children. When I was new in recovery and new in trying to make some sort of a connection with a higher power, I used this one. He is the father and we are his children. That worked for me. And it and at the time I was a new dad. My little girl was, when I really started to dive into this, she was about 2. And I could see that it didn't matter what she did. I would always love her. My idea of God, you see, at the beginning was the one that I'd gotten in Sunday school, really a kind of a judgmental Christian idea, and that I had dispensed, got rid of, said no to, and so I needed another one, Okay. We'll talk about that. Amanda says, where did I find my solutions to my problems, or what did I truly need to heal inside me, and how I walked it out rather than break a child's eardrums? I had to remember my roots, and then my friends in nature, and those who walked on the streets. Okay, we'll talk more about that. I love it. So whatever the concept is, service, love can be our concept. Many, many times when I talk to people about a higher power, and they say, well, I don't believe in God. And I say, well, do you believe in love? And everybody, even the roughest, toughest guy says, yes, I do believe in love. It doesn't matter who, how bad they think they are. Everybody says, yes, I believe in love. And my question is always, well, do you think that love is a power greater than you? And everybody says, yes, of course love is a power greater than me. Great. That's your new higher power. Let's start with that. And it's amazing because it just opens the doors. It's like, you're kidding. You mean love can be my higher power? Love can be my God? Yes. It's in every church basement, there's a sign that says God is love, and of course. And that's the way in. However we get started, whatever our concept is, however small it is, it's a way in. As long as we have willingness to begin to make that connection on a moment-to-moment basis. It isn't a belief, it's an experience. Belief will carry us a certain distance, but it's the experience that we live with moment to moment. And it's a it's a bit of a, in the beginning the mind kicks up a stink and says, yeah, but I've been running the show. Well, not so good. Yes, you might have been running the show, but maybe let's have a look and let's give the boss a chance, okay? And so it says these different concepts is principle, we are his agents, he's the father, we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and that's what I'm just saying. This concept is a keystone, the new triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. Oh, heck, we're in this now. I'm going to read the next paragraph, and I'll stop, I think. When we sincerely took such a position, that's the position of turning our will and our lives over to care of a higher power. All sorts of, excuse me, you guys, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. I love this concept. We had a new employer. God's my boss. And often I say, put me in. I'm ready to go to work. That's my life. And it's simple. I know it's simple, but it really, for my simple brain, sometimes I just need to come with that, put me in. So we had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided what we needed. Here's the condition, if we kept close to him, performed his work well. So for me, keeping close in a moment-to-moment basis is, things like, thy will be done, I will be done, thank you, lots of gratitude, thank you, God, prayer, meditation, that's how I stay close. And performing his work well, is helping others. This is the work. So it really is great. He provided what we needed if we kept close to and performed his work well. That's the direction. Established on such a footing, this is the footing of staying close to him, performing his work well, we became less and less interested in ourselves. These are the promises in the third step. Our little plans and designs. So we became less and less interested in ourselves and our little plans and designs. More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence. So it's a presence, and it's a consciousness. It's not a belief. It's not like, believing in something that isn't real to you or to me. This is, we become conscious of his presence. We begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, the hereafter. We were reborn. It's a beautiful piece, and whether we like to admit it or not, most of us are living in fear, and that's the prison we live in. And my job is to set you free. That's the deal. I'm here to bust you out, But ego defends the position. Ego says, no, it's okay. We're fine. We don't want freedom, Ego's afraid to be free. Ego's afraid to lose control. So when the mind comes up with all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't live this free life, recognize that's the mind coming up with all kinds of reasons because it doesn't want to lose control. Period. Full stop. What day is it? It is the 3rd. So every day I still read from this little book. I'm going to do this, and I went on quite a bit longer than I usually do today. Thank you, you guys. But I'll just read this, and we probably won't do a meditation today. So January the 3rd. Thought for the day. I never know what this is going to say. I don't read this before I do my talk, So when I came to the 12 steps, I learned that an alcoholic or an addict was, I learned what an alcoholic or an addict was, and then I applied this knowledge to myself to see if I was that, an addict or an alcoholic. When I was convinced that I was an addict or an alcoholic, I admitted it openly. Since then, I've been learning to live accordingly. Have I read the book, Alcoholics Anonymous? Have I applied the knowledge gained to myself? Have I admitted openly that I am an alcoholic? Am I ready to admit it at any time when I can be of help? The key piece in this that I think so many of us miss is that the first step says that we are powerless over whatever our addiction was. The first step says we were powerless over whatever our addiction was, and that our life had become unmanageable. And that's the key. We kind of miss that. That is a symptom of the disease, that we're selfish and self-centered and trying to run our own lives, and it doesn't work. You know, and if we don't shed that, we will not overcome the addiction part. And that's not, I'm not kidding. I mean, that's a fact. I've buried hundreds of guys, hundreds of guys. Failure in this game is terminal. You know, that's the deal with alcoholics and addicts. We either end up in institutions or death. Either we get sober and find a spiritual way to live, or we end up in institutions or death. I'm not kidding. Meditation for the day. I will be renewed. I will be remade. In this, I need God's help. His Spirit will flow through me, and in flowing through me, it will sweep away all the bitter past. I will take heart. The way will open for me. Each day will unfold something good, as long as I am trying, as long as I'm trying, as long as I'm focused on life the way I believe God wants me to live. So a God-centered life instead of a self-centered life. Whoopee, eh? It's beautiful. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be taught just as a child would be taught. I pray that I may never question God's plan, but accept them gladly. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, you guys, that's kind of my thing for today. Thank you for listening, and yeah, thanks for listening. So we'll put this up on YouTube as well. I wonder if you go and subscribe to me on YouTube. And love you guys, and thanks for allowing me to do this. I get tons out of doing this. You know, I feel like I'm staying close and performing His work well. So God looks after all my needs. It's all, it's not some abstract, objective God. I mean, we live in it. We are it. Okay? Yeah. Thank you. Layla Engday. Thank you. Okay, love you, girl. So we'll talk again. I'm back hopefully much earlier tomorrow, and one day at a time. It's just kind of keeps happening, and it seems like we're going to keep doing this for a while. Okay, love you lots, and I guess that's it.